Good morning and good afternoon to all watching this video. Today, you are going to learn how to create a basic online first-person multiplayer game using Unreal Engine with C++ scripting using the client-server model. If you enjoyed this video, you can help out by subscribing and liking this video, as well as leave your thoughts in the wasteland that is the comment section below. The client-server model consists of a server and at least one client, which connects to the server. The server controls the game and its logic, while the clients only send information to the server to influence the game. Think of this as a video game console, where the consoles that the players play on is a server, and the game controllers connected to the console are its clients. However, instead of all players communicating to the server, we are treating the server as its own player as well. To get started, create a new Unreal Engine project using the first-person C++ template. On the right side of the play button, you will see a button in the shape of a triangle pointing downwards. Click on it and set the number of players to 2. Set the net mode to play as listen server. And set the play mode to new editor window. When you play the game, you will see 2 windows for each player. You can move around and see that you can interact with the objects around you, and it will show on the other player's screen. You would notice that when a bullet is shot, the bullet won't appear on the other player's screen. To fix this, open up the projectile script, and in its constructor, write the functions setReplicate and setReplicate_movements. In those functions, set their arguments to true. setReplicates ensure that the information of the projectile will be sent to the clients when created. setReplicate_movement ensures that the information of the projectile movement is shared to the clients as well. This process of sharing information between the server and clients is called replication. Make sure that whenever you update your scripts, that you build the Visual Studio project. If live coding is enabled in Unreal Engine 5 or onwards, then you do not need to build. Instead, just save the project. Close Unreal Engine and find its project directory. Right-click the U project file of the game and select Generate Visual Studio Project Files. Now when you play the game, the bullet shot by the server can be seen from the client side, but the projectile shot by the clients cannot be seen from the server side. This is because the bullet is created locally on the client side and is not sent to the server. Since the server does not know that the bullet shot exists, it won't show it on their screen and cannot replicate that information between other clients. Therefore, instead of having the client shoot the projectile, we have the server shoot the projectile instead, so that the projectile is replicated to all clients. We do this by using Remote Procedural Cores, or RPCs. In the player header file below the onFire function, we create a function called server_onFire. We get this function the U function parameters server and reliable. The server parameter specifies that this function is a server RPC. The reliable parameter makes sure that when the client calls this function, it is always executed on the server. Make sure that we do not create the implementation for the server on fire in the CPP file. Instead, create the implementation for a function called server on fire implementation. When we create a server RPC function like server on fire, we also must create an implementation for a function with the same name but with the suffix underscore implementation. Be sure that we do not create the definition for that function, or server on fire implementation in this case, as the definition for this function is automatically generated when we have the parameter server as a part of the server on fire ufunction parameters. Finally, we move the logic of the instantiation of the projectile in the onFire function and move it to server onFire implementation so that the projectile spawns from the server. Now call server onFire in the onFire function. To summarize the functions that we had created, onFire is called locally by the client, and so we keep the logic such as the sound effects being played in that function. When server onFire is called in onFire, server onFire implementation is called on the server, which we use to create and shoot the projectile itself. So finally, when we play the game, we see that the projectile shot can be seen from the server and the client. So we know how to replicate objects and their movements from servers to clients. But we can also replicate properties as well. Before we get started on that, we are going to add a variable for our player's health. There, we are making it a U property with the parameters replicated, edit anywhere, and blueprint read and write. Replicated indicates that this property should be replicated by the server to the clients. Edit anywhere allows the property to be edited in Unreal without needing to rebuild our scripts. Blueprint read and write allows the property to be edited in Unreal Engine blueprints. When the U property of a variable has the parameter replicated, we needed to add the header file Unreal Network as a part of our includes, and create the initialization and definition for the function getLifetimeReplicated props. Make sure that the name of its arguments are written exactly as shown, or errors will appear later on. Another important thing to note is that there only needs to be one getLifetimeReplicated props function when at least one variable has been replicated. In the function, we call the inherited getLifetimeReplicated props and call doRepLifetime. In doRepLifetime, we put in the class where the replicated variable is located, as well as the name of the variable we wanted to replicate. Now, the information of the health for all players are replicated to all clients. In the onHit function of the projectile, we will check whether the projectile has collided with the player. If so, then we will check whether the projectile is from the server by calling get local role and checking whether it returns the enum role authority. After all these conditions have been satisfied, we will subtract the health of the player and destroy the projectile at the end of the unhit function. The health of the players should be replicated by the server, but we have no way to see how much health the player has. So we are going to create UI to see the player's health. So in Unreal Engine, we create a blueprint widget and add a text label where the player's health is going to be shown. We will then bind the text so that we can edit it in blueprints. In the text blueprint, we get the player and check whether it is our player class. If the check has failed, then we set the text on screen to a message saying that the player cannot be found. If the check is successful, we then get the health from the player and convert it to a string. With the string, we append it to the end of another string, which stores the message health. We then set the text of our text label to the string that we had made. We then create a HUD blueprint class, and in its begin and play event, we will create the UI widget we had just made. We then add the UI widget to the viewport so that we will display it on screen. Finally, we create a game mode where we set its HUD class to the one we had just created, and set the default pawn class to first person character. We now go to project settings and go to the map and mode settings. In maps and modes, we set the default game mode to the game mode we created. When we play the game, we can see that when we shoot at the other player, then their health will go down, and vice versa. Thank you for watching this video to the end. I really appreciate it. I hope you learned something today, and share some support by liking and subscribing, as well as leave some feedback to help move this channel forward. See ya!